Hi, I'm Ipsita Das. You might know me as Hello Ipsita from Instagram. I'm a personal development coach, I'm a TEDx speaker, and a content creator. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're here, I'm extremely thankful for you. And here we talk about topics like mindset, communication, confidence, and we focus on building a very strong relationship with yourself and becoming the most magnetic version of yourself. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. I've been waiting to say this for such a long time. And thank you for being here, and welcome to the other side. So, I went on this trip to Indonesia with 15 strangers. It was a month ago. I happened to do this retreat style of workshops where we were traveling together. I was conducting these 3-4 workshops. And in the first workshop, I remember we were having this Q&A session when I asked every single person in that group to write down that one thing or the one moment when the last time they got triggered and they said or did something that they instantly regretted and they still hated themselves for it. Now, it was so interesting because the entire mix of that trip was so, made up of different kinds of professionals from all different walks of life. These were all my Instagram followers, and I was also meeting them for the first time in real life. And one of these trip members happened to be an operations manager at one of the major T20 teams. I happened to pick his chit up, and the chit said, "My junior came up to me, right? There was this new, fresh intern that joined the team, and he came up to him to ask for help, to ask some sort of advice, and he had some doubts. He asked for help, and for whatever reason, he got triggered and he lashed out at him because he had already like a lot of work that his senior had given to him. We kind of figured out by talking that it was just misplaced anger or misplaced or misdirected frustration that was coming from the senior to the trip member, to this guy who was on the trip with me. And then he lashed out on his junior, who was just there to ask for help. That had happened, I think, months ago, but he hated himself for it even to that day. And he was like, "Sir, what do I do? Because this is a pattern that whenever somebody asks me for help, especially at work, I just tend to get very frustrated and lash out at them. And I hate myself for it." The entire idea behind me discussing this is that in my Sunday Q&As that you must know about, this was one of the most requested questions of how to manage your triggers. Like, triggers are any external stimulation, anything that happens that threatens an impulsive reaction out of you, something that catches you off guard and you just find yourself acting and behaving in ways that you didn't expect. And then what happens is after that, you end up hating yourself for it. Why it's not nice? Because number one, there's a lot of regret that comes with, getting triggered and behaving a certain way. Number two is this loss of sense of self-control. That is not something that people want to continue living with. And it is something that also weakens your own relationship with yourself. And if you followed me for enough time, you know that we are always talking about how can you make your own relationship with yourself stronger, because that kind of carries you through life. Today, we're going to talk about 3 steps or 3 different ways that will help you understand your triggers as well as deal with them in a way that makes you much less of a reactive person and a much more calmer person. The first step in this 3-step process is what I like to call catch the baby. Now, what do you mean by catch the baby? Whenever you sense some sort of irritation or frustration rising up, the main mistake that most people make is that they don't catch it at irritation. You need to catch your emotions at an infant stage and not when it has become an adult. The anger or the rage or the reactive behavior, that's the adult. We need to catch the emotion at its infant state. So whenever you start to feel some sort of irritation or frustration at something, you now know that you're starting to get triggered. And that's where you have to catch it. Now, this just doesn't come in one go. This comes with practice, right? So you also have to be very sensitive and start paying attention to whatever your physiological signs are as well. For me personally, whenever I'm starting to get irritated at something or like frustrated, I have a lot of shortness of breath. So I catch myself not breathing properly. I'm not taking proper breath. So that's my first sign. The second sign for me is I also start to feel this tightness in my stomach, in my belly. So for you and every single person, you will know. You have observed in the past that when I start to get irritated or frustrated, this is where I feel it. So with a little bit of extra attention, you just have to make a list of these physiological signs of when you're starting to get irritated, because you get irritated, then you get frustrated, then there's anger, then there's rage. right? And that's where the behavior or the triggered behavior comes out. So as soon as you catch it at the infant stage, you can then decide what you want to do about it. Either you stay, either you learn how to breathe a little bit deeper so that you can manipulate your emotions into, becoming more calm as well. Or you can just pick up and go, leave the physical space. You don't always have to be in that same space. If you're triggered, you can leave and you can feel much more calm and then come back to deal with the situation. The entire idea behind this step one being that the more adept I get at understanding how different emotions or how irritating emotions feel in my body, then I can catch it very quickly and I can mitigate my behavior. I can regulate my behavior. That saves me a lot of future regret. That also saves my relationship sometimes. The step two in this three-step process is take stock, take inventory. Now, what I mean by taking inventory is take a paper and a pen, write down the last 5 times that something happened and it caught you off guard and it was a trigger, you were triggered and you reacted, I'd say volatile, in a volatile manner. You will notice that the last 5 times that this has happened, there's probably a pattern to it. Because as human beings, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So you're never going to only do something once. You're probably going to keep doing it again and again. And unless and until you don't take stock of it, unless and until you don't bring it to your conscious mind that, listen, when this happens, this is how I react repeatedly. So now when I'm taking stock of my triggers, I'm identifying my triggers as well as the way that I'm behaving or my behavior towards that trigger or after that trigger. When I take stock of it, now I'm aware of it. Now, the next time something like this starts to happen, I now know that I'm probably going to react in a way that I've done before, that I've regretted highly. So I'm not going to do it. I'm probably going to catch myself way before this happens. Number three, and this is my favorite one, and this is something that I use myself all the time. It is called impulse versus instinct. Imagine you're craving a pizza, or imagine you're somebody who tends to do a lot of impulse shopping. Okay, it's 2 a.m. at night. You're scrolling for the past 3 hours, and you can't fall asleep, and you're not happy with your life, and you want to buy something off of Amazon because that's going to make you happy. One way to decide if that's what you want to do is just ask yourself this one question: that I will buy this in the morning if I still feel like it. Now, the main difference between an impulse versus an instinct is that the instinct is even going to stay there even when you wake up. Impulse will go away when you wake up. And this is applicable to all sorts of impulsive decisions, triggers, right? If you tell me something that I get very angry about, and I have this impulsive need to say something back to you because I want to get back at you. I don't like you at this moment, right? Because now I've done step one and step two, where I know that the last 5 times I did something like this, I regretted it immensely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself this question, or I'm going to tell myself that I'm going to say this to you tomorrow if I still feel like it. I can always come back and tell you certain things of how I felt the day before when you said something that made me mad. But the point is, if I put a little bit of a pause before reacting, and that pause could last for seconds, that pause could last for minutes, and that pause could last for hours. But if I'm creating some distance between what you did and what I'm reacting to it, I'm also giving you the time to think about what you said and what you did. I'm also myself taking the time to think about what I said and what I did. And at the same time, the most important thing is I'm also saving our relationship from something that could be potentially damaging. Now, the entire idea behind this 3-step process is that I want to be somebody who's in control of myself, because I cannot control how you are. I cannot control what's happening around me, how people are reacting, or whatever's happening in my external surroundings. But what I can control is how I respond to it, because a lot of my life is going to be dictated by my reactions or my responses to whatever happens to me. So this was my 3-step framework to manage your triggers. Now, I will insist that you follow this 3-step framework right after this video ends, because when you are aware of your patterns in peace, when it's not really happening, you are much more equipped to deal with it when it actually shows up. because the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. I'll see you in the next video.